tender the check today?
Your Honor, yes and no again. We have cleared title. There was a problem with my brother with all the judgments and liens against the property. We had a lender that thought that that was a problem, and so he decided to exit. We have another lender that's aware of that situation, and since that time, we've cleared title. So there is no more problems with the judgments against the property that will keep us from getting the money. Now, I believe either this afternoon or tomorrow, I'm meeting with a new lender. He knows the situation and is prepared to write the check. There is a credit report that's coming out, and he needs to do a walkthrough of the house. But since there is no more judgments or liens against the house, it should not be a problem. Mr. Richard Gill, who you've met, is in the courtroom. He's a loan officer that's handling this. He can explain in detail as to what's going on if you'd like to hear him, because we're real close. But things, it takes time when there's all kinds of judgments and liens against my brother, who didn't cooperate for 30 days in signing what he needed to sign so that we could affect the title to see what was there. And all that was on there was judgment, state of Oregon, state of California, judgment, lien. But when they pulled them up, as Ms. McGuire's person told you when I was here before, then they can actually see what the judgments were for. And Mr. Gill can speak on that if you'd like to hear him, because we're real close.
Well, how close are you again, Mr. Gibson? Because that's what you told me last
I
time we were
understand,
on the 12th.
but we had not yet had the title report yet, because he had just signed the paperwork. We were able to do that. Like they said, that took a few days. But once we saw what was there, then we had to go to all the different debtors and try to make deals with them to get it clear. That's all been done now. So there's no judgments or there's no liens against the property. And now we have a new lender. It's Iron Bridge Lending. They're aware of the whole situation. You can call Jenny at the title company. We also have his number. I'm to meet with him this afternoon or tomorrow.
I'm waiting for this call.
Okay.
He has sent me a title report for he's.
Don't comment from the bleachers, please.
But Mr. Gill has been, this deal is with 2 other properties. That's how we had to do it. We had to put them all together. And so this property that I own is now with 2 other properties so that we could get this thing done with all rapidity, as fast as we can. I'm trying to do the best I can to get this money to her so that this is no longer an issue and we can start parenting our son again. And that's what I'm interested in. But we're doing everything we can, and it's, there's no more.
Are you prepared to proceed on the contempt motion, Ms. Martin?
I don't know what to do, Your Honor. I've been doing this dance since the first
Are you
contempt I
prepared to
filed in
proceed on the contempt motion, Ms.
I
Martin?
don't know what that entails. I was told I was getting paid.
You are.
I filed contempt.
Okay, so he's
I asked
entitled,
for
hear me out, he's entitled to a hearing if I'm going to incarcerate him this morning. In order for me to incarcerate him, you must meet the statutory requirements, establish the statutory requirements, and I have to make a finding that he's not in compliance in order to consider incarceration. So
I don't know what those statutory requirements are. And the attorneys I'm consulting with are from Oregon. They don't know what the procedure is up here. It's elusive. So I just can't keep doing this. I have a child.
all right, so you're not prepared to proceed with the contempt hearing then?
I'm represented. I don't know what that is.
Your Honor.
I do know when I was in contempt, I went straight to jail. Nobody even asked whether the child was safe. So
that was a different scenario entirely. We're talking about a child support issue here. There's a statute that says before I can incarcerate Mr. Gibson that I need to make a finding that he has not complied with the order. So
I think we're clear
Ms.
on
Martin
that.
will probably get paid this coming week. That's what we're shooting for with everything we can. Now, you've heard that before, but we didn't have clear title before. Now we do.
A smart man would have brought some kind of peace offering. something. Or does he even have a job so that I can look at future payments? I mean, he was laughing at me from the back of this man's Cadillac 2 hearings ago. This
Miss
is not a
Martin has
game.
been
This is our
sending
son.
emails.
We don't interrupt in this courtroom, remember? That's the rules. We don't interrupt. Okay? I know I said last time that you're going to owe the February support at the next hearing. I told you that the last time we were in court, that you will owe the February support. Where is the February
The
support?
February support and the March support is all coming out of the deal that we're doing on the house. I don't have that money. I'm not even employed at this time, other than some of the consulting that I'm doing. It's not like I can just write a check for whatever it is.
How are you living, Mr. Gibson?
I do some consulting work. My business for professional credit restoration, I lost 2,500 lenders when this economy went. That's why there are foreclosures all over the place. And so that's what happened. So I've been doing.
How much do you earn a month, Mr. Gibson?
It could be $400 or $500. It could be $1,200, just to whatever kind of consultation work that I can get. Now we do have a number of things that are pending where I was hoping if that would have happened yesterday or today, then I'd be able to write a check for something else that I'm doing that has nothing to do with this house. And that deal is about ready to close, and it's a lot of money. And what I was going to do with that, if that was to come through, is to pay her the $16,000 plus give her another couple of $1,000s just to get ahead.
How much is your rent mortgage payment per month, Mr. Gibson?
I share a house with somebody. The rent on that house is $2,000.
Hey, what's your portion of that?
I pay about $700 of that. There are other people that live there. They pay the balance.
How much is your utility bill per month?
Well, right now we're having the issue with that. But it ranges from about $350 with the gas, electric, and water.
Gas, electric, water is $300.
Roughly a month. It could be more than that in the winter. Obviously, we use more gas.
You have cable TV?
No.
Do you have a cell phone?
Yes.
What's that cost you a month?
$50.
How do you purchase your food?
Best way I can. I'm diabetic, so I have to have certain kinds of foods.
How much do you spend a week on food?
On food?
Yes.
There are other people there that buy food. I would say probably, I don't know, $75.
$75 per week?
It just depends on what we need. Sometimes it's a loaf of bread and milk. Sometimes it's vegetables. Sometimes I have to have fruit and vegetables every day if I can.
I need a number.
I'm just guessing. I'm just a week for food. Probably $70, $75, something like that. Maybe $80, maybe $60. It just depends on what's there and whoever else is buying.
Do you ever go out for meals?
Can't afford to right now. I used to eat out all the time, but not anymore.
Do you have a car payment?
No, I do not.
What's your mode of transportation?
TriMet, bus.
How much does that cost you a week?
It's $5 a day when I use it. So
And how often do you use it?
probably 3 times a week.
Do you have any medical expenses that you incur on a weekly basis?
Yes, my diabetic medications.
How much does that cost?
It's not a whole lot. I take a blood pressure medication. I take another sugar reduction, whatever it's called, metformin. That's every time I fill. That's $8 about every 30 days, I think.
For the blood pressure or the diabetic?
For both of them, $4 each at Fred Meyer's. Generic.
Any other medications? Do you spend money on clothing?
The suit you see me wearing, I've had for 6 years. I can't afford that right now. I used to. I have a lot of clothes. I don't need to buy clothes anymore.
Do you spend money on any other matters, such as Health club bills?
No, I don't do any of that kind of stuff. When I had my businesses up and running, I made a lot of money.
Church tithing?
Yeah, when I can.
Do you donate to your church on a weekly basis?
I put in the offer. I'm a deacon at my church, and I have to tithe 10% of whatever I bring in that week. I do.
How much have you tithed this month?
This month in February, I have not tithed yet this month.
How about January?
In January, probably 70 bucks, something like that.
Do you subscribe to any newspapers or magazines?
No.
So what is it you do for a living now, Mr. Gibson?
I'm a consultant on fundraising for different kinds of projects. Right now we're working on a water deal that we've been working on for some time. It looks like it's going to come into fruition. I'm also involved with a project called Wardell Prince Economic Project, and I do some consulting there. And when that closes, hopefully next week, I'll have more than enough to pay her out of that. Wouldn't have to worry about the house.
So who paid you this month or last month to pay your rent?
I got some money from Wardell Prince Project. I got some money from Veronica Miller, who is there part-time. I got some money from, what else did I get money for? My friend Aaron, I got a small loan from him. And that was pretty much it. Everybody, I mean, I owe everybody. Everybody's waiting on my deal to close so that I can all be paid. And I thought that was going to happen this week. This is aside from the loan on the house, which we just asked for a little bit more money from the new lender, and everything should be all right. So she should be able to be paid, I would say, sometime next week. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week, she'll be paid. Because we don't have any more encumbrances on the property. There's nothing to keep them from. And the new lender is aware of everything that's happened. He's aware of the situation with my brother in the house. He's aware of all the different judgments that were there that are no longer there. So there's no reason for him not to loan the money. And we have an exit strategy to get him paid back based on 2 other properties that are in this deal. Mr. Gill is the one that's handling this and is better equipped to explain it to you than I. That's why he's here today.
Ms. Martin, you have any questions you want to ask in regards to what I asked Mr. Gibson?
No. Your Honor.
I'm finding you in contempt, Mr. Gibson. I'm finding you in contempt.
I'm doing everything I can to get this money. I mean, I'm
telling you how I see it from up here this time. And I say this time because we've had this review hearing now, 3 different occasions?
Your
in which
Honor.
Mr. Gibson
Your
has
Honor,
indicated that, please don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me. Mr. Gibson's indicated that the money's coming, the money's coming. There's one problem with getting his brother off the titles, another problem now getting another lender.
We have another lender.
Well, it just seems to keep going.
Here's
and
the
going.
information. Call him.
Please don't interrupt. I'm finding you in contempt. I'm finding you have the ability to pay child support. You are incurring expenses of approximately $1,500 a month that you just testified to, but yet you have not paid. Has he paid anything since I directed him to pay you $20 since the last court hearing?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
I don't have it, Your Honor. I'm waiting to get it from this property and waiting to get it from another deal that's I'm trying to close. That's all I can do.
My issue with this is 60 days ago, he did not tell us that he had this problem with his brother not signing off. He told us we were golden
We
and we
didn't
were
have
just
it
waiting.
60 days ago, Your Honor.
Don't talk to each other, please. Give me
I was speaking to you, Your Honor.
I've already made my ruling.
So when she gets her money next week, what happens to this contempt that you've just given me?
Then the keys to the jail will be unlocked.
So you're going to put me in jail today?
Yes, sir.
So then how am I supposed to close the deal if I'm in jail?
Mr. Gibson, as I indicated, I've given you weeks, if not months, and this is a matter that simply cannot be continued and be continued and be
And
continued.
how long am I going
because
to be incarcerated?
until you pay off what's owing.
My house is being foreclosed. I've got to be there to be able to do what I'm supposed to do. I can't do it if I'm in jail. I can't pay her if I'm in jail. Now, she either wants her money or she wants me to be in jail.
Mr. Gibson, I've made my ruling.
I thought there was supposed to be a hearing.
We just had the hearing.
Then I should be allowed to call witnesses. I have Mr. Richard Gill. Would you hear him?
You can testify. You want to testify, Mr. Gill?
Is that okay with you?
You sit, James.
Raise your right hand. Come forward. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the whole truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
All right. Please have a seat. State your name for the record.
My name is Richard, R-I-C-H-A-R-D. Last name Gill, G-I-L-L.
Hey, your witness, Mr. Gibson.
Mr. Gill, you have been involved in doing loans on properties and have been a loan officer for banks and mortgage companies for a period of how long?
Since 1992, 20 years.
20 years.
Approximately.
Are you aware of a deal that we're making on a house that I own with other siblings at 10104 Southeast Harold Street, Portland, Oregon, 97266?
I am.
Were you instrumental in putting together a title company, lawyer's title, and a lender on that property? Can you tell us about that and how long ago that's been going on?
That has been going on since I was made aware that that you actually owned the property, and I was not aware of that until you shared that with me after our first trial hearing here. And I was made aware of that, this case about Ezekiel, simply because of the water deal that I've worked on for 10 months for you and 3 other gentlemen in California, Peter Hall, Frank Mashburn, and a gentleman in North Carolina by the name of Larry Schweitzer. So I have asked Mr. Gibson to be forthright with the court because the income that was just described to Judge Rulli and to Ms. Martin is accurate but not accurate. There are a lot of people that have put out their time, their energy, their money, a lot of it for Mr. Gibson, for the benefit of his son. The lender, Mr. Kurt Zelmer, is a private money lender. Because of the situation, dealing with this type of house, you have to go private money. Private money is separate from conventional money in that there are deficiencies in this house. There is a man who is...
He's dying is what he is doing. Is that correct?
He is dying, but the contentious behavior of not only here, but of the family itself has been, for any lender who's followed along like Mr. Zelmer, who's around 70, 77 years old, who enjoys lending money to people who are looking to improve situations, improve properties, improve the neighborhood. And unfortunately, Mr. Gibson's brother is one time was an Oregon track star at Oregon State University. And he still holds records in feet versus meters. He was...
Objection, can we get to?
I'm getting to the point. I apologize, Ms. Martin.
Objection sustained. Move on, please. Next question.
Yeah, so what happened, there was a problem with the signature on a title company report that my brother had, and how many judgments and liens were on there that we didn't know about until we pulled it up?
There was child support for the state of California. That was put in your name. That was not you. That was an issue. Mr. Zelmer, who declined the loan, who followed this title report from the very beginning, Racer to Z was his email, was privy to the title report from the very beginning. His instruction was, I cannot be in a 21st position. There are 20 other judgments on this title that are
Were any of
not
those judgments against me?
They were not against you. They were all having to do with thefts. There was, for Multnomah County alone, there were seven different judgments for possession of controlled substances, theft, identity theft, child support from California of $18,000, which now has ballooned our loan to, for just his payoffs, around $25,000. The house, Mr. Zelmer had, of course, with private money, I was not instructed to do a formal appraisal. He would do his own. He did that prior to our first contempt hearing. He had finally got around to look at the house. Once he had reviewed the title report and followed it up, and he saw how long it took, it was approximately 45 days until we were able to close. And I went over there personally on many occasions to try to do some, how should I call, I figured maybe if this man saw some acts of kindness because of his dying situation, that maybe he would even want to help his children, which are your nieces and nephew, a niece, Alex, who we're putting in school with part of that money at Paul Mitchell Beauty Salons in Broadway, Southwest Broadway. I met with her, I met with you, I met with her father to try to soften him, that maybe he would be open to assisting his own family, even though he was passing. I was asked to make funeral arrangements as a broker, and very difficult to do these extra things. I made trips over to the house to take items from the children to her to ensure that maybe if I do this, maybe it'll close the loan faster. Maybe I could get them to sign off for his own benefit. I could negotiate with the child support in California. All I could do is knock interest off. I could negotiate all the restitution fines, and the interest possibly could be knocked off just for Gerald to help him. I was cursed out. I was told to leave when I brought Ken Kale in Renovation, the contractor, Ken Newell, to the door. We were both cursed out. I was treated very rudely, as was Ken. It scared him. He was saying, Richard, I don't know if I want to do this deal. There's mold in the house. I had taken personally your friend who showed up to this courtroom and your niece's mother's to the hospital, myself, to OHSU. We had, with my business partner who was associated with the other house, we had taken this new lender, and over our objections, the objections of my business partner, the house I'm dealing with in Selwood.
Could you speak a little bit about the other two deals in this house and how complex it is and why it's...
Every private lender needs an exit plan. whether a person is going to rent the house, whether a person is going to sell the house. How is the lender going to get paid back? Is the first, when you come to private money, or if you come to a normal bank and you have a job and you're going to make payments for a number of years, you have to show a debt-to-income ratio, more or less like Judge Ruley pulled out, and you show the income of the property, and you do a division, a multiplication. You find what's called a front-end ratio and a back-end ratio. And when you have what's called a non-conforming property, let's say it could be a property that, in your case, that is in great disrepair, has a serious mold problem, that has a health issue to everyone living in the house, including a new 90-day-old baby named Kaylee, who is breathing mold. Your brother is on Wardell Gibson, who is on oxygen. He has various oxygen tanks around. The point is, this is all prevented.
I don't understand where we're going with all this.
The objection is, I'm sorry, not the objection.
Relevance.
The point I'm going to is that
Relevancy objection is sustained.
Thank you.
Next question, please.
So we had thought that we were going to close on this deal last week, but Kurt Zellmer, who I waited over there for him for 12 hours for him to show up. He did not show up. He showed up the next day when I wasn't there. And then when all of the judgments had been, it's one thing to say you have a judgment for against the state of Oregon, but what was the judgment? When he found out what all these crimes my brother had committed, he kind of got a little bit weak-kneed and decided he didn't want to do this at the last minute. Is that correct?
that is correct. The condition of the property is terrible outside.
So then what we had to do is, there are two other properties that we're involved with. One is the property that I'm living in Southwest. Another property is a property that you're renovating in the Selwood area of Portland, Oregon, correct?
Correct.
And the exit strategy was to take money out of the Harold Street property to do the renovations, to pay her the money that back child support, to also do some things on the Southwest property. And then when the Selwood property sells, then we would be able to pay that money back. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So
Since
that
Ezekiel,
time,
let me just say this. Ezekiel needs you guys to be able to parent, and he needs you to, as a father, to have income.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
okay. So here we are. So at the last minute, we lost the lender. But there was another lender that was working on your Selwood property and another property I do believe that you have, and has already loaned several $100,000. Is that?
We have an approval with a lender that we, as our own private person, because we are experts at this, we do this on a constant basis. We're willing to simply, because of the family connection, you have a brother in Detroit who's willing to do this, you have a sister in California willing to do this. They have to maintain their interest in the property too. So I'm not just dealing with you, I'm not dealing with Gerald, I'm dealing with 4 people. That also made the lender very nervous, because he had 4 different people that if he had to ever foreclose, then he has to deal with 4 people. And when he saw the condition and the yard and everything else, there's drug activity there. We had the police there the other day. One police officer is a contractor who shook your hand. The neighbors have complained about the property. It's a corner lot.
The point is that we now have another lender that's aware of all of that and is ready. Would you speak a little bit about Iron Bridge lending that we're dealing with now on this property?
If Mr. Sikowski likes what he sees, okay,
And
he's used to seeing this type of property, he knows we're going to renovate basic cosmetic. We're kicking the man out, unfortunately. We had to get an attorney to enter conservatorship to do it. This is not a normal, easy deal. Normally on a zero-owed property, this thing, if you have a clear title, you can close within 10 days with private money, and sometimes 3, because they bring the check down to title, they clear it, goes into the Fed thing. It comes back to title. They can come in, prepare closing documents in one day and sign the next. There's not. This is a non-owner property owned by 4 people, not just Mr. Gibson. The other Mr. Gibson has ownership interest in it. So you have to. It's not dealing with one person here. You're dealing with 4 in 3 other states. The $4,500 you received was received by a sister before, his sister, and she is due that money. She paid the taxes. Unfortunately, Mr. Gibson did everything in his power that he could do. He waited one day 12 hours at the property for my private money lender. Mr. Zelmer owned all the, he has a towing company. He owned all the towing companies and a lot of land on Columbia for years. He's a multimillionaire. He declined it because he didn't know at the end if Mr. Gibson could get his brother out, if Mr. Gibson could renovate the property, and Mr. Gibson has never done this type of deal before. So unless you have experience, private money lenders are depending on the experienced person, which is ourselves. The only other thing I can say is that we took, because of the situation, and agreed to take part of our profit. Mr. Gibson is not associated with our Selwood house. And the property, I think there's a measure of truth that needs to be told here. Mr. Gibson does not own the Southwest property. Lorna Schilling owns the Southwest property. She has put up this property for, she's $60,000 in debt right now. She could lose it. I'm entering in a short sale position with her bank, City Financial. I postponed a sale on the property. The city just condemned the property yesterday. Mr. Gibson hasn't been able to pay on the property any money for 2+ years. Okay? He owes $60,000 to this woman. She's losing her credit. She's losing everything. Her son is in the basement. And her brother, or the mother's son, is in the basement with his niece. So, I mean,
So, Mr. Gill, as far as what the court wants to know is, where are we with Einbridge Living and Mr. Tchaikovsky? And now that there is no encumbrance, there is no judgments, the title on the property is clear, what can we expect as far as getting a check?
First of all, we have to tell the truth. If Mr. Tchaikovsky comes up and is not told the truth on this deal, he's going to do like Kurt Zelmer did. He's going to decline.
What do you mean by tell the truth?
I want the truth told about the property. I'm not going to sit here under oath and have somebody find out. I have a reputation. I've been in this game a long time. And private money, I'm an African-American businessman, it doesn't matter. But if you do not tell the truth to these lenders and they find out you lied to them, if anyone lie, I'm done.
So have I told any lies about the property?
Not on Harold Street, you have not. But you have not been forthright about the Southwest property.
Well, the Southwest property, we're attempting to buy that property.
If you were honest with this judge and everybody here, perhaps they might have some mercy on you, but you have not paid any money on the Southwest property. Ms. Schilling is 2.5 years since you've been there. You don't pay $700 a month on the property. You pay nothing. The water in the property, and in my book there is a document yesterday when I had the owner call me last night and tell me,
but the reason for that,
Please let him finish.
Please let me finish. This is beneficial for you to get the truth out. This is the only way that your son can come to a place of good care with heat, water. The electricity is partly off. The water's completely off. The water companies come and put a meter and put a block over it. They've actually bent over the thing, not because of your fault, because of the man in the basement. Lorna's brother, Arliss's son, Lorna's brother. You have not paid any money, no $700 on the property, as you told Judge Rule.
That's what I owe.
You do not even have a rental agreement there, okay?
Well, I do. You haven't seen it.
Mrs. Lorna Schilling has come to me, and 2 months ago, I worked with City Financial. You're very well that I worked with them to postpone the foreclosure of that property, because right now you would not be there if it wasn't for my work. So, I'm not going to sit here and perjure myself.
I'm not asking you to.
You are.
I am?
Yes. Now, secondly, you have not made any money from the water deal. The water deal is done The first phase of it is done. There's $200,000 owed to me right now. You are due part of that money.
How much am I owed?
You're owed, you would get half of
$250,000.
yeah, okay. Doesn't matter the amount. The first phase is done. I'd ask you to stand up and have a spine and tell the water people to pay me so I don't have to use Morton Lund, whose book I have back, who's in another attorney, to sue the water company and to you for my pay for 10 months. Secondly,
But what does Mr. Gibson have to do with that?
Mr. Gibson was the one that brought me into the deal.
So what does he have to do to culminate that?
He has to stand up and be a man and put the demand letter in to institute our fee. But they have tried to convince him to pay me $1,000 for 10 months and can try to convince me to sign a contract to screw my own
That
self.
has nothing to do with me.
You are paid up until
My
October.
question then, Mr. Gill, is there a source of income out there that potentially Mr. Gibson is entitled to?
Yes, he is very much entitled to it. He is.
And what needs to be done in order to secure that?
The thing that has to be done is a final. He has to get on the phone. He has to follow up with the emails that we've done with for you. You didn't even have an email connection.
I've been
Stop interrupting the witness, please.
Okay, their money can be there if he will get involved with me in pressing Mr. Hall, Mr. Mashburn, and Mr. Switzer to pay us for what we're due. We have a contract through another group called Summit Global Group. Charles Nearen is the president of Summit Global Group. That's how I met. I know Mr. Nearen.
How long has this transaction been going on?
10 months.
They worked for 5 years to get financing. I'm very good at what I do. I worked for 10 months, and I procured financing through Morton Lund, Stoll Reeves, the largest law firm, one of the largest law firms in the country, through the San Diego branch that only works on water, energy, and so forth, Mr.
Can you tell me why this has not culminated then?
The water part or the
Yes,
house
sir.
part, sir?
The water part.
The water part has been very difficult. We had it because the reason why it didn't culminate is because of what I consider the human element. Because
What can Mr. Gibson do to expedite the closing of that transaction?
he can stand up and enforce our contract that is written in Oregon through Summit Global that pays him and I $250,000 for our first. Actually, it's because it's only $2 million. $200,000 for the first phase. We have a 2% ownership interest in the company through this contract that was executed, signed by the owners, the main people of at that time.
So you're telling me that
TWPC.
the Global isn't performing their end of the deal now?
It's their.
No, they are.
Summit Global Group is performing. I got on the phone with Charles Nearen after we had a contentious back and forth email where they were trying to get us to sign off a referral situation instead of being an intermediary, because it was us who instituted putting Stoll Reeves, Morton Lund together, his contact, Thomas Olson, and a guy named J.R. Sondeville. They are in front of what's called the Imperial Water District in California. They are the largest irrigation water district. They are the most powerful.
All right,
they are
continue.
connected to the largest farms.
I want to know what Mr. Gibson needs to do to get his money.
He needs to go along with me in a demand letter and write a demand to, which is now, they changed water companies to try to avoid a contract. They also changed water companies to try to screw Mr.
So why do you need
Gibson
him
and
to write
myself.
a demand letter? Why don't you just do it?
I'm doing the demand now. What I'm trying to do is give the water company a few more days to at least maybe even another week while I work on this side on our other things. Because
So short of litigation, it doesn't
so
sound
I'm
like-
trying not to go to I've been through enough litigation. I'm so tired of litigation I could scream. Okay, I want to have business people be business people, and what I shared with them is that the reason I'm working on Mr. Gibson is another gentleman, Frank Mashburn, who's a West Point graduate, had a 15-year-old situation. Please bear with me, Miss Martin. This is really to help pay
I
you.
got a child I gotta.
And
I need to get out of here.
I want to make sure that you not only have enough money for your child now and the back stuff he owes, that Mr. Gibson owes his child the
I need it
forward
today.
child
Can we
support.
move forward? I need it today.
I can't give you 16,000 a day, but sometime next week, if I have to take it out of our own property, which I may end up having to do, I'm willing to get you paid. That's what his obligation is to you and his son. And a man who, you know, we've put up thousands of dollars just to get him so he could get his son and be the father he's supposed to be. He can't do it without money.
You can't do it without doing the truth.
Exactly.
The
This
truth.
is the truth.
It has nothing to do with money.
It has nothing to do with money. I met with this lady yesterday. I met with her this weekend, Mrs. Schilling. These people put up $60,000, $2,000 a month. They've got nothing from their own brother. They've got nothing from Mr. Gibson. You know, a person...
Because the water deal that you were working on was
no.
supposed to close months ago,
Listen,
and that's how that was going to be paid for.
Any
It didn't
man,
close.
like I told you the first time, I am an expert. Well, any father that does not pay for his son, how can he expect his son to turn around? You know, he's going to love you and Denise no matter what money. He don't care about money. He cares about the love of his father. But if you can't even buy the kid a McDonald's sandwich because we're sitting down waiting on big deals to happen, if it were my son, I'd be at McDonald's turning burgers. And I'd be at night at Burger King at 7-Eleven because will hire second and third shift, and he's right down the street from you. We've sat here long enough asking and helping. What are you going to do, Michigan? Well, you could bring paperwork. When Roger Widener, who's a former prosecutor, he had the Consumer Fraud Division, said, was at our house typing out stuff, not to come against Miss Martin, not to come against you, to assist getting this boy back in who's missing his father and mother and would like them to stop fighting so he can be with both of them, it's not her fault, not right now. It's your fault right now. She's taking care of the child every day and spending money, and you're sitting around talking for your church and us. There's no supporters here. Jordan's left town. Everybody's mad at you. The church is angry. No, it's not your fault. I want you to grow up as a man and say, this is my son. I love him. $225 to get to the lady, Mrs. Swinney, who we called on your behalf as a surprise birthday present because your birthday was this last Sunday. You're now 62 years old. And Mrs. Martin, and no, you got to hear this. You got to tell the truth. Miss Martin and Mrs. Gibson have no money.
Hang on a minute, please.
So,
Hang on, Mr. Gibson. That's what I asked her Wednesday.
Yes. Right. Anytime. She said no. I don't know. She said it's open. We've been going back and forth.
All right.
so, Mr. Gill, the two questions I have is, one, you seem to think that I can get on the phone and call the water company and they're going to send the $200,000 to you? That's not going to happen like that.
No, I think what Mr. Gill said is that if it was his son, he'd be turning burgers at McDonald's to support him.
Well, you heard that part, and I've been working on a number of different projects. I closed a company when I was making a lot of money, when I was taking care of my son and Miss Martin at my house, and she takes off with them. We've all been.
Are you asking me a
Objection,
question?
Your Honor.
Sustained. Sustained.
I guess I'm just much prepared to go. So if let me ask you this, Mr. Gill, if I'm in jail, how do I meet with this guy, sign paperwork, tour the property to get her paid? How am I going to do that?
I would have to sit down and what the reason the lenders appreciate me and how I can get a loan for a man with no job is a miracle. It's because of our willingness to take our property, who we worked on for an entire year. You've seen every paperwork. Can I finish the question? Can I finish answering the question?
I didn't finish the question, please.
We are taking against Dan Johnson, who sat with you and told you, my business partner, we put up money in this property for a year. We're very concerned about allowing George Stokowski, Armbridge Lending, to be involved with that property, simply because of the contentious way and the anger, the resentment that has come out. I'm very terrified of that. Because if I screw myself up with Selwood that I've worked on a year, I've got the Clackamas County Court watching, I've got a conservator involved, I've got Edward Farrar, PC, and Tacoma Avenue attorney involved. What am I supposed to do?
So let me ask you,
Let me finish,
when
please.
this deal
Let me
closes,
finish,
do you
please.
get paid?
Let me
Do
finish.
you
I
get
will get paid on commission when it's done. I don't get paid from November to now, from gas to helping you with food to everything. There's some honesty that's got to be had here. The only way you can get paid for Miss Martin and your son. There's got to be complete transparency.
When we close the deal on the house, do you get paid?
I do.
When we close the deal on the water company, because I'm part of the water company, you're a broker, correct?
That's not true, Mr. Gibson.
Is that true or not true?
Objection, Your Honor.
It's sustained.
Relevant. We're
It's
no
sustained.
closer to me getting paid.
Yes, you are.
Okay. Do you have any questions of Mr. Gill?
Just one.
Yes, ma'am.
You had to know, based on Judge Ruley's comments last time, that he could be facing jail time today. It didn't dawn on you to bring $500 from Lynn Gibson, from your own account, anything to keep this from happening so you could keep him out of jail and close this loan?
This isn't Mr. Gill's case. So,
To help answer the judge's question, your question, I did think about that. In fact, this
Thank you.
weekend,
All right, thanks, that's all I wanted.
So, Mr. Gill, so with me in jail, what happens to this deal?
what happens is I'm trying to keep you out of jail right now and I don't know if I can, because I can't, I'm not you. And if you're willing to sit here with me and put me on a witness stand, and I could be talking to Gerard right now, okay, and you're not willing to be forthright with and lay everything on the table, then you can give a judge and Miss Martin a chance to maybe give you enough time. And I would be willing to have Miss Martin call me, not me call her, at her request, to follow up every day if she needs to. And I will make her transparent to whatever's necessary to help you and your son and her, and at least for your boy to see you. We called on your birthday to surprise you, me and Jordan. And we met down and had a beer and went over and talked about getting her money. How we could do that outside of this deal, if perhaps Gerald, not you, you've been very compliant with everything we've asked you to do. The one thing I appreciate about you lately, you have finally lost your temperament, and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get Miss Martin paid. And I'm willing to put up additional money from our property to ensure her additional payment. So you don't have to come back for her, Judge Ruley, if she has $20,000, $21,000, whatever it is. You haven't even told them you didn't make no money until today. But yet you're telling this judge that you're making $700 a month. You pay this on utilities. You pay this on utilities, and you don't pay anything in the house. You haven't paid anything for 2.5 years.
I haven't been there for 2.5 years.
2 years.
thank you, Mr. Gill. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So
Mr. Gill's excused.
I'm going to jail and my deal is done and that's it. So I'll be there for what, 6 months
You're
until this thing
excused, Mr. Gill.
closes? What?
I can close it now, but I need you
Well, then do
to
so.
be honest with everyone, even
All right.
Mr. Sakowski.
Thank you. Thank you,
I
Mr.
thought the
Gill.
witness was excused.
Mr. Gibson was ordered to pay support obligation of $540 in October of '08. He was found in contempt on 2 prior occasions for not paying his support obligation. He has not paid. You need to be taking notes for preparation of the order, Ms. Martin. He's found in contempt on 2 previous occasions. Judgments were entered at that time. Additional proceedings were held for non-payment support from February 1 of 2011 to January 2012. No support was paid in that time. The only support that Mr. Gibson's paid was when I asked him at the last hearing if he would pay something for the support of his son. He gave the mother $20 at that time. His testimony this morning that he earns up to $1,200 a month but that he has expenses exceeding $1,500 a month, brings into question as to how he can pay his bills if he isn't making enough money to, as he says, to pay the bills. Now his own witness, Mr. Gill's, testified that Mr. Gibson has not been honest with this court, that he's not paying any bills. So that calls into question Mr. Gibson's credibility with this court as to what he has told this court in the past. I find that he's had the ability to pay. He has not paid. He will be incarcerated. He will be allowed to purge the contempt by paying the $16,367.07. So he will hold the keys to his jailhouse cell, so to speak,
So
in regards to his release.
how am I supposed to
This
do this
matter
in
will come
jail?
back before the court for review on February 22nd, next Wednesday at 1:30, for presentation of the order on contempt prepared by Ms. Martin. Any questions, Ms. Martin?
I don't believe so. I think
Any questions, Mr. Gibson?
I've lost my cell phone. I need to call people, let them know that this judge is putting me in jail, so I can't pay my bills. I don't know how she expects to get paid with me in jail. I'm doing everything I can to close these deals. I get no credit for it. Yes, there is money owed on the house, but this guy here 10 months ago was supposed to close the deal on the water company. He has not done that. That's why we were supposed to pay for the Southwest house. I would have had money to pay her, but it hasn't closed. Now they don't want to deal with him, so I've had to do some other kinds of things. But it doesn't matter what I say in this court. Nothing I have said. None of my witnesses, my professional witnesses, Dr. Kirk Johnson, Terry Vetter, Arliss Phones, Jordan Rainier, Lynn Gibson, all those testimonies meant nothing to this judge, nothing whatsoever. And so I'm doing everything I can to pay the child support. I haven't seen my son since September of 2010. So my son is being robbed of his father and having a relationship with his father. Lynn Gibson, who she had on her witness list, but refused to call her because she didn't want to perjure herself, saying that my son is perfectly happy being without me. That's not true. You give no weight to that. So I guess that I'll just get out of this racist courtroom and go to jail.
Yeah.
All right, that concludes the hearing.
Signatures on this or no?
Thank you.
Gotta find my phone. It's sitting in court someplace. I've got to be able to court and pay for it. I'm going to jail.
Ms. Gibson?
That's not about throwing me in.
Ms. Gibson? Ms.
Gibson.
Martin?
Ms. Martin.
Thank you.
Give it back to.
This is a copy.
You think of anything you want your phone to have.
I'm looking for my cell phone. I had it when I came in, and I don't have it now. And all my numbers, I got to call people.
You're not gonna know, you're gonna have to call me in jail.
I don't have the numbers. Richard, you got to look for my cell phone.
He will, he's got that message, okay. You want to lock him up there?
No.
Mr. Gibson, just
Call
leave
for
all that,
contact.
Mr. Gibson, leave all of that on the table. This deputy, I'm going to go over to this deputy here. He's going to take care of that.
Call after the drive.
Go. Thank you. Go over there. Do you want him to take your coat or your
I don't give a shit about anything. This is just a fiasco. What do you mean, come on?
You'll be out of this quickly.
I'm not going to be out of this
Sir,
quickly. I'm going to sit in
Sir,
fucking jail. I don't have
Mr.
my...
Gill,
Okay,
I don't
Mr.
have my diabetic pills. I'll probably die in jail.
Is it
Thanks,
just gonna
Judge
make it
Ruley. I don't
worse?
have my medication. I need to take my diabetic medication or I will die.
You want him to take your jacket and stuff?
yeah, he said you need there, so.
Well, I do care. That's my stuff.
Okay, so you
But I
want,
can't. Well,
We'll take it, we'll take it. He doesn't want
I've
to.
lost my cell phone. I gotta have my phone in someplace in this courtroom.
Would you step up? hold on, stop right here, because I want to pat you down. You ready to be cars? Shit. Did you say the 7th?
Fuck.
Okay, Mr. Gill, go outside.
What did you say?
Fuck you. That's what I said.
Hold on a second.
Mr. Gibson.
You're going to create more problems here if you keep going this way.
The video is still on for this hearing. So, Mr. Gibson, this is being recorded.
You sell them to YouTube.
Spread your feet, sir.